Right. Let's keep things moving. We may not have the best idea of where to go at the moment. I'm not even fully committed to what classes to be as we keep pushing forward. Still, sooner or later, we're going to be able to make more progress. Son of a bitch. Looks like I'm gonna do another supply run in the Dwarven Village. Probably should have bought more high potions considering how far into the game we are. But then it's pretty tough to get a sense for just how far we really are in this game, considering how the story is being handled. There's nothing really being built up in the background. If there is a main villain in this story, we've heard so little about him that when he's finally going to be revealed, it's going to feel like kind of an asshole no matter what they do. Granted, an asshole can be well done, and be interesting like with Garland turning out to be Chaos in the original Final Fantasy, but it can be tough to do. Okay, so our highly capable team of 4 warriors is being captured by a bunch of cuddly little bird mascots now. Ah, my mistake. The Moogles didn't actually get a chance to try to capture us for bullshit reasons. Though considering the way we ended up getting sent to the floating tree fortress earlier in the game, can you blame me for thinking that was what was going to happen to us here? Again. Wait, let me get this straight. Your hyper-capable mage of a teacher gave the immortal man the gift of mortality. I'm sorry, but based on that rather quick summary, I feel like this Xande guy might have some legitimate reason to be pissed. Seriously, one apprentice gets just magic in general. The other is made the guardian of an entirely different form of reality that all people visit when they sleep. And the third gets the dignity of dying of old age in the future. That just feels like such an obviously raw deal. That might not be a good idea, Toga. Half the people who followed us have ended up dead. Sure, you technically weren't made mortal, but we're dealing with a guy who's so pissed he's magically trying to destroy the entire planet. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't mind finding a way to kill the other 2 apprentices who don't have to worry about old age taking them down. I'll have to take your word for that. It's not like there's much in the way of character interactions around here, or all that much world building. Just what was directly needed to get the job done. Again, the first game to really go all that much into detail with the story was Final Fantasy IV, the immediate sequel of this game. They certainly considered doing more intricate storytelling in Final Fantasy II and III, but for one reason or another, they just couldn't quite fully commit to it. Maybe they felt they just didn't have enough practice making these sorts of games and wanted to experiment a bit before taking that particular step. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't even really know that step was even a thing until they already took it in Final Fantasy IV. Again, this series did a lot of innovative things for Japanese-made role-player games as a genre. It may not have had a cultural impact anywhere near the level of Pokemon, but it did have an impact. And I'm sure when I finally get around to working on the other Japanese-made role-player games like Suikoden, the Tales of series, Shin Megami Tensei, the Saga games, and several more, we will see various shades of Final Fantasy in them. Yeah, we noticed. Well, there's our opening. And good God, I do not like the idea of us having to use Mini again. Does anyone else feel that's an overused gimmick around here? Because I'm sure not going to trust my own judgment on the matter. Especially since I wasn't a fan of it the first time we had to do it. Sure, it's one of the things that this game tries to do to make itself distinctive from all the rest of the series, but still, I can't think of any other games that use a gimmick like this outside of Final Fantasy. Sorry, but I can't really consider these horses in any way demonic. There's not nearly enough blood or fire. Granted, not all demons look like they came straight from Warhammer 40k's Dark God Khorne. Still, it's a pretty standard look. Anyway, it looks like I completely forgot that Mini absolutely fucks over our physical offense and really ruins our defense regardless of how good our armor is. Sorry about that, but in my defense, it's been quite a while since we needed to use Mini on our team. Well, those horses certainly did a lot more damage than they had any right to. Bloody hell, definitely a good time to retreat. Yeah. As much as I can respect this game for keeping me from becoming complacent, I cannot condone how it does so. All too often it feels less like I'm figuring the game out for myself, and more like I'm just relying on online guides to an extreme degree. And while I try to have my own preferences for how characters are prepped, it just feels far too much like the game only feels such and such is acceptable at various points of the game. It's that frustrating thing where I don't have a problem with a game giving you more freedom or making things linear as hell, so long as everything all feels consistent. The class system in this game, though, implies freedom. The boss fights and several puzzles in the game imply otherwise. Ugh. Anyway, looks like we've got yet another monster design that I'm not a fan of around here. It just... Really? That's supposed to look like some kind of cow creature? It looks more like some kind of weird bug-faced thing. It's just strange how I have such an annoying feeling with the monster designs in this game, considering that Final Fantasies 1 and 4 didn't have that problem from me. The graphical limitations of Final Fantasy 1 should technically be worse than this game. And I'm not sure you can really say that Final Fantasy 4 was all that much of a visual upgrade from this one. At least in terms of how many pixels on screen, though clearly in terms of art design they had something right. Hell, it's probably part of the reason why the Pixel Remaster packaged Final Fantasies 1 through 6 together, because they used a lot of the same tile sets and generalized visual details. It's kind of a shame that game designers these days don't do anywhere near as much of that sort of time-saving thing. And for some of the bare few that do try that sort of thing, they somehow end up making things look a little bit worse the second time around they use the same damn assets. I don't know how or why. Anyway, I think I'll take Toga's word on the weapons there, because so far it hasn't felt all that critical what weapons or defensive gear we're wearing. What matters all too often is what classes you are when the fight begins in this game. Should I bother asking how far down we have to go? I don't suppose you could have kept the road to the magical rift better protected, could you? Because you kind of implied earlier that Xande is capable of controlling the various monsters in the world somehow, and this place is just full of monsters. Is that just another thing I'm not supposed to think about around here? Okay, this chamber looks important. Ah! So Toga is going to be yet another companion of ours that doesn't make it. Well, at least we can see why Final Fantasy IV had so many death scenes, even if all but one were ones that the game couldn't fully commit to. Oh, come on! Why the hell does he need to do a spell to let the ship named after a submarine act like a submarine when it looks externally built to do that sort of thing? Right. So we need a mystical instrument to wake a mage up to help deal with a planetary threat because coffee hasn't been invented yet. Also, we'll be allowed to gain yet another airship, making it our fourth in the same game. If there's one thing I'm not gonna miss when I get to working on more modern video games, it's the fact that old school games had you do obscene amounts of crap just to get to the next bit of progress. How many dungeons have we been warped out of in this game? It's kind of funny that part of me would like to have walked all the way back out. No quick and convenient teleport out of a dungeon, make us have to get out the way we came in. Most people kind of like the convenience of not having to go through the same round that they just went through, but hey, even without the ability to temporarily turn off random encounters, that feels like a bit of a cop-out to me. Dear God. If you want to make it annoying as hell to reach the end of a dungeon, commit to it, and make it just as annoying to get back out. That would be a good way to test if the player's ready for some of the later challenges of the game. Instead, the moment we're done with the dungeon around here, we're kicked out. Repeatedly. How many times has that happened in this game? In most other Final Fantasies, we don't get random encounters when we're in an airship. I suppose that's partly to make up for just how many dungeons we get teleported out of. Right. Another supply run back in the floating continent. I just really seem to like having a lot of basic potions. We'll see how long I keep that little habit up once we get to an actual MP system that works reasonably well. Seriously, if I keep doing that all the way over to Final Fantasy VI, then I am officially crazy. Anyway, time for the Nautilus to prove how good of a submarine it is. Huh. So not every body of water is acceptable for landing in. We can do the open ocean, but not random rivers, and some lakes aren't all that acceptable either. Huh. Okay, trying to get there by foot is probably just as bad an idea as trying to go by the air. That's interesting to note. Okay, definitely a bit different from flying around. Certainly like the fact that we're running into hostile fish down here. Though it's probably going to take a bit for me to find the place we're actually supposed to go down from here. Ah, guess it should have been obvious based on that little hole in the continent. Ah, well, we weren't wandering for all that long. Okay. Not too sure why they decided to have a temple devoted to something like, time underwater. And I doubt that this place is gonna have too many enemies that are based on the concept of time. How do you even pull that off other than, maybe the occasional hourglass and clock? Ugh, hell. We're probably not gonna be seeing all that many fish down here either. Well, good thing we stocked up on a decent number of those magical keys. Hopefully we have enough that we won't have to pull back for more supplies. Okay, guess this pit of diamond wasn't meant for a knight. Okay, good that Azul is getting an equipment upgrade as well. It's certainly been quite a while since he's gotten anything nice. Not quite as long as it's taken for a Midori to get upgrades, but still, take what you can get. And okay, looks like we've got some seahorses. A pleasant surprise to see some aquatic enemies in a dungeon that we had to go underwater to reach. And the fact that it feels like a surprise in any way kind of says something about how the enemies in many of the previous dungeons didn't really feel like they fit the environment we ran into them in. Though the best themed dungeons had to be the volcano, where we got to the fire crystal with the golden mansion and the damn good close second. Dear God. I'm sorry to say, though, that the enemies we run into in all the other dungeons just don't feel memorable or feel like they fit all that well where they ended up being. Okay, the Defender is quite the upgrade in terms of swords, though I can't help finding it funny that the legendary blade fit for a king is completely outdated at this point. Granted, it wasn't outright named Excalibur. I wasn't expecting to be carrying it all the way to the final dungeon. Just like I wasn't expecting to run into a dragon that could do over 700 points of damage in a single strike. What the hell? Fingers crossed that the raise spell gives Brett a decent amount of health when he's back on his feet. Not really sure how much health I was expecting Brett to wake back up with, but that is certainly painfully little considering how much damage that dragon can do. Well, nice to see confirmation that being in the rear row lessens the strength of an enemy's blow. Well, it does a better job than actual armor, considering the amount of abuse that Carmine took from a single shot. And this is a random encounter, not any kind of boss. A random encounter that is clearly far more dangerous than a lot of the outright bosses we had to deal with, and for more reason than just pure stats. Bloody hell, that fight took a lot more out of us than it probably should have. I'm really getting the impression that we may have entered this dungeon sooner than we should have. We're certainly taking some harsh hits, the kind of harsh hits that imply that we should have had better defensive equipment and higher levels. And I'm certainly heading back to our submarine for the moment. It's not like we went through a moment of no return to get into this dungeon after all. Well, taking on the Shimmers and some of the other random encounters down here, we're well equipped in terms of offensive stuff. but that dragon just made me feel very worried. And even the other monsters down here are hitting us pretty damn hard. We most definitely need better armor to hold our own down here, and yeah, I know I already said that class means more than armor in this game, but at this point it's an instinct thing. Probably not the best idea to change Azul's class, but it definitely feels like we need to change something to hold our own down there. We'll just have to see if it was the right choice or if I'll switch back to Black Mage. Getting a better bow might not make up for the fact that we're removing the ability to use black magic, even if I'm not generally a magic user. But again, I will just have to see how well this class pans out. Wait, you gotta be kidding me. There's nothing defensive for an archer around here, are you? I'm sorry, but considering that was one of the classes we gained at the same time as the Knight and Black Belt, that just feels absolutely insane. Why the hell did they screw over this class? Dear God, not even a single archer-related thing in here, either? Well, at least there's some weapons for an archer in here, even if they aren't as good as what we've already got for him. Still, wow, I wasn't expecting that class to be even more neglected than the Red Mage, and considering the fact that in the original release, you had the ammo issues. Oh, good God. Oh, good God, who in their right mind would use it? Nothing for his body, but at least we managed to find a hat. Dear God, this search is not going the way I was expecting in any way, shape, or form. I was hoping to find something that would turn out to have more armor than a black mage while still being able to remain in the back line, but that's apparently hoping for too much. Well, at least the arrows are hitting harder. That's gotta be worth something, though apparently this town has no equipment stores at all. Well, may as well get some more high potions in Phoenix Downs, considering the kind of hits we're taking down there. It just doesn't feel like there's anything else I can really do to prepare before we get back into the time dungeon. Good God. It's sad that a black mage has better armor than an archer around here.